The fifth episode of The Ivan Show brings you the story of a hardworking, principled, and self-made gentleman who envisioned his success at an early age.
I must be a beater, I must be a manager, and I knew that in order to be those things, I should not engage in indiscipline or bad manners.
Mr. Fagil Mandy. He was born in Fort Portal district on 11th November 1948 but grew up from Chebando next to Nsoba in Wakiso district. His life is a tale of journey from a village boy chasing grasshoppers to an inspiration speaker, renowned author, education consultant, actor and hotelier.
Hello and welcome to the Ivan Show. Today on this episode, I host one of the most prominent Ugandans in education sector. At least if you talk about education, you cannot fail to talk about Mr. Fagil Mandy. Fagil Mandy, welcome to the show and thanks for allowing to speak to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to communicate what I am going to communicate to the population out there, whether Ugandan, African, all the world over.
Mr. Fagil Mandy, a lot of people are talking about success, are talking about they want to achieve in life. But the best of my knowledge, I have followed what you write, what you speak, and what you do. I have seen a different perspective of success. But before we delve deeper in that discussion, I want us first to have a brief background of who is Fagil Mandy.
Well, Fagil Mandy is a 74-year-old man. I'm a teacher by profession, and I started teaching in 1971. All right, I have taught at teacher training college level. I've been a headmaster of primary schools, prominent schools here in Kampala, Kitante, Old Kampala, Aga Khan. I've been an assistant education officer. I have been a commissioner for inspectorate in the Ministry of Education. And those were the jobs I've done as far as education was concerned. But I've also done a lot of education, for example, through the mass media, the radio and television and the newspapers. So I have also worked, I've done other jobs. I've worked in a bank at one time in my life because my principle was to diversify and create as many skills in me as possible. So I've worked in a bank. I've worked as a general manager of one of the hotels in Kampala, Silver Springs Hotel. I have also worked as a personal assistant to one of the vice presidents of the Republic of Uganda at one time for 1 year on matters of education and cooperatives. I am now working as an education consultant with the Fagil Mandy Education Consultancy, all right, which carries out services evaluating schools, training teachers, training students, training parents, and looking at schools and then how we can improve them and so on through their directors. They invite me and I go there. But I'm also engaged in a lot of writing. I've been engaged for the last, I think, mainly about 20 years now, right? And I've been engaged in also, I am engaged in the hotel business because I believe that you cannot survive on only one thing in life if you are going to really be a successful person. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So I am in the hotel industry. I am in the estate industry, rooms for rent, houses for rent. And I do a lot of public speaking, particularly inspirational, on matters of parenting, matters of preparing for retirement, matters of self-engineering,
Yes.
how we build ourselves. And I've also done a lot of programs on how we can make the youth grow up and be a vigor in national building, apart from building themselves anew, So that's what I've been. I am married and I'm 74 years now. And I live in Mkono. I live in about 3 places, not because I am married there, no, because of my jobs right now. They take me in various places For example, at everywhere my hotel is, I've got a wing where I stay, and it's like my home whenever I go there, that sort of. So that is Fagil Mandy, and I'm a sportsman, mainly in normal physical exercise, and I'm also a dramatist. I have produced so many plays in Uganda. I've done about 210 productions, including short skits, which I use for training participants, and they make those plays. I have also written 9 plays, which I have not actually published yet. I am planning to do that. So that's really me, and I'm a simple man. I'm a father of 6 grown-ups. My last born was born in 1974, you get me? And I've got now 18 grandchildren and 3 grandchildren. So that's as far as my family is concerned. My mother is passed away about 7 years ago. I grew up with my mother mainly, not mainly, really. I grew up with my mother as a single mother, and my grandmother also. Here near Kampala, near UBC in Chebando, that's where I grew up, really, although I was born in Fort Portal. So that is Fagil Mandy. I'm simple. I move all over this country. I know nearly every corner of Uganda, and I can assure you, if I landed in any parish in Uganda, I would not miss to get somebody who recognizes me.
Yes, before we continue, to the public out there, I want to assure them that recently, Fagil Mandy, I think it was last week on Tuesday, he published a book called The African Icon. Fagil Mandy is a writer. Fagil Mandy is an education expert, is an education consultant, is a CEO of FEM, Fagil Mandy, FEMCOD. So many people understand Fagil Mandy differently. Is a very good writer, is having a book also called Self-Engineering, and is saying a true story about success. So in all his editions, he emphasizes about self-engineering, multi-skilling. We are here with a gentleman, and he's going to tell us a lot more about what is success. He has explained who Fagil Mandy is. What I know about him is a very down-to-earth man. He's a very down-to-earth man, and he respects everyone. Now, Mr. Fagil Mandy, given the current background you have given us and how you grew, the positions you occupied, how did you manage to persevere? Because I know the story was not simple as you speak. How did you manage to persevere to become who you are now?
First of all, I am lucky, okay, because this was not put in me, but I picked it, that I selected what I wanted to be very early. I knew what I wanted to be very, very early. When I was in class 3, P3, that's when I selected that I must be at the top. I selected also to say that I am a winner all the time. Do you know what made me think like that? It's because in my P3, in a school nearby here, in Jinja Kaloli near Kawempe, there were boys who were teasing me in a funny way, calling me all sorts of names, despising me, because by that time it was characteristic of a lot of young people to despise a crossbreed, because my father was of Pakistan background, and I was an African, Muganda, Mutoro, that sort of thing.
Yes.
And so they teased me, and they said, you are a child of a prostitute. Look at him, you are just a half-caste. I was not amused, and I didn't want to throw stones at them. I was not a fighting boy. I have never been a fighter, apart from ring boxing, So that's when I decided, I said I must prove to these boys that I'm not just anything, I'm not just anybody empty, that I'm not a child of a prostitute, because my mother has never been a prostitute, and I had never believed that when she met my father, that she did it as a prostitute. No, all right? Okay, so I decided around 1960, 62 or something like that, in primary 3, that I must be a winner. I must beat these boys in whatever I do, these who are despising me. From therefore, instead of feeling miserable because people were laughing at me and ridiculing me, I developed the formidable spirit of a winner, a victor. And from that time, I've never looked back. For example, that very year in primary 3, my headmaster made me jump. I never went to form 4, primary 4 myself. No, I jumped straight from primary 3 to primary 5. So that is when I found myself, and I have always borne it in my mind from that P3, from that challenge, that I am a winner. I must be among the top all the time. And that's how I have worked.
How did you manage to maintain discipline and you become exceptionally defeated in formal schooling?
No, first of all, I was lucky because I discovered my desire very early. You know, we are talking about success. We shall come back to this. If you do not know what you want, and you do not know what to do, and you do not know when you have achieved it, then you cannot succeed. You get me? So for me, I succeeded because once I decided that I must be a winner, it entered my lifestyle, my life at that time. For example, there in P3, I used to run the 200 meters, the 400 meters, and the moment I did that I must beat these boys. There were no girls because it was a single-sex school, primary school.
Yes.
Even when I ran in the playground, in the field. Every time I overtook a long-legged boy, I would stop and wave to him and say, and I move on.
Yes.
And that is the spirit. So that spirit being with me, all right, was enough to protect me, for example, against any other young children's indiscipline. For example, I will tell you later on that I never lacked money, you know. I never learnt bad manners. I was not a thief. I was not a fighter. I was not quarrelsome. I always thought I belonged up there. And I knew which were bad manners, even if I used to play with some young people in my village. Are you getting me? So I protected myself against indiscipline. Number 2, on top of that decision, I also decided to begin working very early. So I never had loose time. During the holidays, I was working all the time. Even weekends, I would work when I'm not at school. I started working by fetching water and selling it to people, digging in people's gardens, working on houses with mud and wattle, digging pit latrines. I enjoyed them because they made me one. I was very proud of what I was doing.
Mr. Fagil Mandy, you look to be a strugglist and your life is full of nice experiences of a hustler. Now, did you not ever think about giving up?
No. Because whatever I did, for example, I did, for example, fetching water, I did it with much happiness, much happiness. Are you getting me?
Yes.
For example, I never carried water on my head. I didn't carry the equivalent of a jerrycan today on my head. I used to carry 2 jerrycans in my hands, or 2 debes. Are you getting me? Because by that time I had started training my body to be strong. Are you getting me?
Yes.
To be healthy. So for me, fetching water was like an enjoyment, an activity to make me happy, to make me strong. Even when I was digging pit latrines, we would start digging 50 feet down below on Friday. I say we because I was working with a friend of mine, a neighbor in my village. 50 feet on Friday evening, Sunday we are finished. You get me? And we get our money. We used to enjoy the earth coming out of the pit, and we felt great. So for me, the work was a pleasure. The work was driving me into more adventurous areas, apart from teaching me the value of work, the respect of work, and also because I started earning my little money. My mother was paying for my school fees. Are you getting me?
Yes.
You know? And so for me, I worked and made my own money. Are you getting me? And I was happy with my own money. For example, I was able to buy myself a bicycle later on. Okay? With my own money, I learned how to choose my clothes. and not dress like the simple, not simple, but every boy in my village. No, I would select my clothes. By that time, I knew which shops where to go. So, and then I would go and watch movies in town here in Kampala. Are you get? So I was independent happily, and I've never been a crowd person. Crowd.
Thank you, Mr. Fagil Mandy. I know you don't have that mentality of crowdism. Now, did you ever envision that you'd be successful as you are today when you are still a young man?
Yes, I did. I did. That's one thing also which my friends out there, the elders and the young people, right? You must know what you want to be. You must know. It's not enough to say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be this. No. But what sort of person, what sort of man, what sort of woman do you want to be? Define it. Are you getting me? So for me, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I told you, I said I must be a beater, a winner in everything I do, in class or where I'm fetching water or something like that.
What was your motivation?
My motivation is that because I decided to be a winner. And then later on, I started seeing people who had succeeded. For example, I grew up in Chebando, and we used to come to Chebando, to Kamocha, all right, to catch grasshoppers. Grasshoppers were in Kamocha because that was the place of Indians, and they had electricity. In my village in Chebando, there was no electricity. So even by coming near the gate of an Indian was exciting enough because one, there was electricity. I was coming from a village where there was no electricity. And then also I knew by that time that they had their own schools for their own children here in Kampala, where other children don't go. So I said, no, I must be great like those Indians in the Kamoja. Are you getting me? Then two, my mother had told me that my father was actually was a post office manager. Manager in Fort Portal. He was a manager. And for me as a growing up child, I knew that my father was a manager. So I said, and by the way, I never grew with my father. So this one I just heard from my mother that he was a manager, a post office manager, and I decided that I also must be a manager. A manager, are you getting? So those two things, I must be a beater, I must be a manager, and I knew that in order to be those things, I should not engage in indiscipline or bad manners. I should not engage in comforting myself with last positions in class. No. So that was my motivation. I knew what I wanted. I knew, for example, that I must be clean.
Mr. Fagil Mandy, going through primary, secondary, and then university, I want us to first understand how you transitioned from high school to your very first job.
Well, I've already told you my first jobs. Actually, I call them the best of making Fagil Mandy as a worker was fetching water, digging in people's gardens, digging pit latrines, and doing some mud and water work on some simple buildings in my village. And I was very happy with those. But I learned a lot. One, for example, I learned to look for a job. Number two, I learned to do a job to make sure that my boss is appreciating. Number three, I learned to do a job and finish it in time. Number four, I learned to make my own money and how to use my own money. That's what I learned, all right? So now, you said what did you want?
When did you first get absorbed into formal sector, formal jobs?
Formal jobs, one, first of all, I was first involved in a formal job when I worked during my senior 4 holiday. Incidentally, I went to Rubidi Secondary School inside the King's Palace in Mengo, all right? And my first engagement with any other job, all right? By the way, in between there, I had started experiencing work, not me, myself with my job, but I used to accompany my mother, who was working as a house help at Kitante Courts and working for the British and Asians who had been brought to Uganda to do special jobs like accountancy or teaching or headmasters in the country. So that was my exposure to workers and what sort of work they were doing, all right? But my first real work environment was when during the holidays I don't know how it guided me, but I got a job because I remember I was paid some little money. I worked with a department under the Railways Corporation in the Customs Department, and I liked it. And I remember when the holiday was ending and I was about to stop working, one gentleman told me, actually he was a Mzungu, he was I think a British gentleman. He told me, Fagil Mandy, why don't you apply and then we send you to Nairobi to train in this job? Are you getting me? Meaning customs work.
Yes.
All right? But I thought about it and eventually I said, no, I'll not go into this job. Instead, another friend of mine went and me, I remained there. But eventually after that, I decided to go for teaching profession. For teaching profession, because I had been a leader at my school, I had been a class monitor, and so teaching was closer to my leadership position, to my position of changing and being responsible for shaping. Are you getting me? So that was the first experience, and then I did my diploma in Chambogo at Chambogo. Then it was training grade 5s. So I did my course, physical education and English language at Chambogo, and then I qualified with an upper second diploma, and I qualified for the first time, as a teacher of senior 1, senior 2, senior 3. I think by that time grade 5s were teaching only to senior 2. Are you getting me? Yes. So I qualified, but luckily enough, when I had just qualified, I was selected by a principal of a teacher training college, Nyondo TTC in Mbale. He came to the school, to the college, and he was looking for a teacher to take to his teacher training college. And eventually he selected me. One, because I had done physical education among the 7 students who did that subject. The first 7 Ugandans to do physical education as a subject to teach. This is the beginnings of success. Yes. 1, 1, 1, 1, you know, that sort of thing. So he selected me, and then number 2, even in my English language, I was already combining also a director of plays. I had already started writing by that time, and I was already a producer. I was already an athlete and a sportsman. So this gentleman selected me, the principal selected me, and I became the first grade 5 teacher to be allowed to go and train teachers of primary schools. I remember my my commissioner for education by that time wrote a letter to accept me to go and train the teachers, although that was a grade 5. So,
Mr. Fagil Mandy, reading your biography, we understand that one time you became a commissioner in Ministry of Education. I want to have an experience, because in our African countries, there is a lot of corruption. How did you survive working in that position with a lot of temptations as regards to corruption?
No, I think the beginning point is, how did I jump to be a commissioner for education? Because for me, I remained in education from the teacher trainer at Nyondo TTC, from Namutamba TTC, that was my second posting. Then I ended up at Shimon, just next to UBC here in Kampala.
Shimon was still here?
Yes, Shimon was still here as a teacher training college.
Okay.
So for me, I worked up to that level. Then I became a headmaster. Selected, I never sat an interview. I was selected by the district education officer of Kampala, and he took me and handed over the school after he had introduced me to the staff of Old Kampala Primary School. He said, now Monday, take charge. I took charge there, and then I became a headmaster of Old Kampala. I worked in Old Kampala for 6 months only. Then I was transferred to Aga Khan Primary School, which had 3,400 students, 3 times as big as Old Kampala. Okay. Then I was there for, I think, half a year. Then I became assistant education officer. I was posted in Tororo, Bukedi. I was posted later on to Kampala City Council, you know. And then later on, I sat an interview and became a headmaster of the grade 1 primary school. That's when I became a headmaster of Kitante Primary School. So that was my level at which I was. When I did my degree in Makerere, at Makerere, I decided not to go back to the primary school headship. I decided to change, to expose myself to another experience. You get me? Yeah. So for me, the job of commissioner comes after I had worked as an RDC. You get me?
Yes.
I had already worked, yeah, I think as RDC, because by that time I had already worked as a banker.
So
I
head
also
teacher.
worked as a general manager of Silver Springs Hotel. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
From a normal teacher to manager of Silver Springs Hotel to banking assistant or personnel officer, and then I went to what, to the field. I applied. I was appointed as a director of NRM Secretariat. Are you getting me? After 1986.
So you did politicking also.
It was not politicking. Me, I've never done politicking. No, I have always believed that politics is the science of managing society. Are you getting me? Not politicking, not talking about colors and what jargons. No, I've never believed in jargon politics. Are you getting me? All right. So then, for me, when I was doing my work, actually I became an RDC, resident district commissioner of Kapchora district. I worked there for 6 months. I was transferred to Kabarole district. I worked there for 1 year and a half. Then I was transferred to Tororo district. And when I was working in Tororo district after 1 year, I got a call from the Ministry of Education, actually the Minister of Education, inviting me to join the Ministry of Education as a Deputy Commissioner and be the chairperson of the Implementation Committee of UPE and USE. So I didn't sit for an interview, so I can't say there was any corruption. No, I was selected. He didn't give me a lot of details, but he said, we are starting this big program for our country, okay, universal primary education and universal secondary education, and we want a worker like you. He didn't break down. But of course I knew I was a good worker. He couldn't have selected me because I'm a thief, no. So within 1 week, I had moved.
From being RDC
to being a deputy commissioner here in Crested Towers.
here.
Yes, that's where I was. Minister of Education was seated. Are you getting me?
Okay.
So my first year and my first 2 years of implementing UPE, I was in Crested Towers and pushing on the program and making it move.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's how I joined the Ministry of Education. There was no corruption. I had to fight a few things, of course. I mean, when I came, of course, by that time, the situation was not as bad as it is now. For example, corruption had not spread so obviously. Indiscipline had not spread so obviously. I'm talking of times. By that time, you could keep time and be respected for keeping time.
When I was reading your book, Self-Engineering, I saw that among your workmates, majority of them were fearing to address media or to be part of the press. But for you, you were very free and engaging with media people.
To use the media, the newspapers, TV and radio to communicate the purpose of my work. I used the arm of media, newspapers, radio and television to actually extend and reach out there, which other people didn't have. Me, I used it and I still have used it. And this is why I'm doing even this program here, because our people need to be inspired that they have got capacity to succeed and be greater than what they are. So for me, that was the difference. Others had not seen its value. They were fearing, because when you come to the press, you must know what you are going to talk about. I knew what I was going to talk about. Number two, I knew how to speak about it honestly and beautifully, because the programs, I mean, like UBC would not invite me, for example, to go and do a program if I could not communicate well, if I did not know what I wanted and that it represented the desire of government and my country. Are you getting me? So I picked it deliberately to enhance my job, all right? And also to make me happy, because if I'm given a job, I want to enjoy it. You know? You remember a lot of work we did when I became chairman of Uganda National Examination Board.
Before we get there, from Deputy Commissioner, let's move up to Chairman UNEB. So from Deputy...
Before even UNEB, when I was a Deputy Commissioner, I was the chairman of the Implementation Committee to put in place the program of UPE, Universal Primary Education, and Universal Secondary Education. All right? So I did that from 1997 to about, for 1 year and a half. And then I was made for example, the Commissioner for Education, the Chief of Inspectorate of the Ministry of Education. But while I was working as the Deputy Commissioner in charge of implementing the universal primary education, that's when I and my team in the Inspectorate, we introduced the basic requirements and minimum standards indicators. Because I was in charge, I said I cannot drive an animal which has no shape, which has no direction. So we worked out minimum standards, what must be in every school in Uganda to make every school perform well. Are you getting me? Or to have a child who qualifies from primary or secondary with the qualities we have decided to do that.
Mr. Fagil Mandy, I can really feel your impact in education sector so far. Before we finish it, but I can already feel your impact and contribution. Now we are a full commissioner moving forward.
Yes. A full commissioner, of course, one of the things that I came out really very fast when I was full commissioner, and that's why I was made full commissioner, because I had a big opportunity when I was chairman of the UPE committee as deputy commissioner. I moved. Are you getting me? Because there were people fighting the program and they wanted it to fail. So I had to move and get the people to understand the program and also educate them on how to implement it. Are you getting me? So I had moved. So, and I think because of that experience, then plus the one who started the universal primary, the minimum standards, they thought I was fit to be in charge of the entire inspectorate of the Ministry of Education, which I took on. And why I took it on? Because I had already set the minimum standards. So I knew what to be implemented. My job was to make sure that people are educated on, for example, what is the role of a management committee, what co-curricular activities should be in every school, what should be in every classroom in the school in Uganda, whether rural or urban. Are you getting me? So I knew what it was. And that's when I think before I lasted there for 1 year, I carried out an inspectorate. I mobilized an inspection of 900 schools at the same time. And we had the report there. And by the way, I did that because I was evaluating whether the schools were beginning to understand and implementing the basic requirements and minimum standards indicators. 900 schools.
I think your effort towards promoting UPE and the USE is really immense. Now, from being a commissioner, time is not always our best ally. Moving forward, after being a full commissioner, do we see you as a chairman in ENVISIONED?
I first retired. I became chairman of Uganda National Examination Board when I had already retired and when I had already started my own education company. I didn't start a school, I started Fagil Mandy Education Consultancy.
So you are pulled out from retirement?
I was requested. I remember the PS rang me up if I would accept to be chairman of UNEP. Then I told him, give me 2 weeks. I had to consult, among the people I had to consult were my children and so on and so forth. They advised me, they warned me about, but please do not get some people to use your name wrongly, you know. That was one of the things. So then I accepted, and I went there, and I think I worked there for 1.5 years or 2 years. But I accepted, that was after I had retired, right, on my own. And mark you, I retired at the age of 53, not 60, and it was my desire because I wanted what to do. I didn't want to retire when I'm tired and old, and when my name, I wanted to retire with my name sharp and clear. I knew what to do. I had the energy and I could think. That's when I started that. And I think it was with the background of my company that the minister wanted me to be chairman of the board.
What was the worst experience when you were a chairman at UNEP?
No worst experience. No, there is no really. Maybe the worst experience, and I don't call it the worst, was when I decided to resign from the position of chairman. That I don't call it worst, but I think it was worst in terms of those who trusted me must have been disappointed, but me, I saw that I could not do my work, and if I could not do my work, I could not remain there and be pretending or joining the enemy.
Why did you retire?
No, that is too long for me to go through. Yeah, too long to go through. I didn't retire because, I retired because I saw as chairman, I could not head a board which could not happily and clearly perform their duty. Me, I never accept a job if I am not going to perform my work. I was sent there to work, and when I see that there was impossibility to do the work, why pretend and remain there? Because I will continue earning the salary or what? No. My name had not been made by being chairman of UNEP. My salary was not, I was not getting a lot of money. This was just a responsibility, you know. So I really decided, because one, I saw I could not do my work. And you give me any work today, whether in a private firm or whether in government, if I read the map and I see I cannot do that work, I will not accept it, because that would be pretense. And for me, I've never accepted a job to pretend about it. No, I accept a job because I know I am going to do it, and I've done every job which I've been given.
Mr. Fagil Mandy, before we delve deeper in matters of Fagil Mandy, the businessman, I understand you have always disagreed with people on principle. Have we ever disagreed with President on principle?
No, not seriously. Yes, right now, but I mean, that's my personal. Are you getting me? Like now, I don't think we are training our population enough. I know we need to train our population, because I believe very, very strongly that a country cannot grow without changing the mindset of the population, without skilling the population well, and without managing in a framework that is decided. The management must be organized and so on and so forth, and we must use the right methods of work in order to achieve our results.
Who is Fagil Mandy, the businessman?
Well, me, I was a businessman. As you remember, I used to do my private jobs. So I learned the skills of working for other people by that time. And then, of course, I joined the hotel industry, because I had had the experience of being a general manager of Silver Springs Hotel. So I am in the hotel hospitality industry with one branch in Chegegwa called the Fagil Mandy, Giriman Valley Resort in Chegegwa, and then Giriman Hotel in Kasambia, 2 hotels, you know. But even in business, I don't believe in remaining only in one business. No. And this is a message to everybody. Never depend on only one business all the time. Just in case. You saw what happened during COVID. Are you getting me? So I am in the business of education consultancy. And within that education consultancy, I am also in the sub-business of writing and publishing books, in the public speaking, radio programs, and so on. I am also in the business of rentals. I earn part of my living salary, money, from the rentals I built. They give me most of my money actually now. So I earn money from my hotels, I earn money from my houses, which I have a total of about, and when I talk of houses, I talk of single rooms, double rooms, and so forth. I talk about 70 of them. Okay, between Chegegwa and Chegegwa, Mukono, where my home is. In Mukono, I had to cut part of my compound and put there a double-storied building, and I've got rentals there, which give me some money. So, I can tell you, I've never been broke.
In your retirement, you are just enjoying your life.
Yes, I'm enjoying and still working. Are you getting me? That's why you saw I launched that book, because I'm still working, and I still think that I can continue building my society and getting my work to be spread everywhere, to continue changing.
Now, Fagil Mandy, given your background, now we want you to summarize for the public out there, what is the true definition of success in summary?
The definition of success, ladies and gentlemen, because I've done a lot of training on success, and I've done about 75 training workshops with the population in Uganda, and most of my presentations are normally question-led. I have concluded from the population, I think I have trained about 3 million people, 4 million people on success, including institutions, public members of the community. I have concluded, and I've put it in one of my books, is that success means that, one, you have acquired enough skills, mental, enough attitudes, enough abilities in your body to be able to solve problems. That is education. You have succeeded in training those and developing them. Number two, that success means you have succeeded in remaining healthy and strong. That is success. Number two, you have succeeded in putting together a healthy, a family together. That's another success. Okay. Then another area which has been described by the workshops, it was like a research. All right, that you must also, apart from having yes, you must have a family, right? You must be healthy. You must have a career, a job you are doing for which you are known and you are contributing to the community. Then also you must also be able. You must have a spiritual freedom. You must love God and know how to work with God. Are you getting me? Then, of course, that you must have wealth, many things which you can have and which can generate money for you. And you must have a clear way of earning money. You must have social impact, cause impact in your society. And you must know various groups of people, fraternities, who you work with. Like me, I've got journalists, I've got actors, I've got what? Are you getting me? So for me, and then, of course, you must succeed in getting a stable character. That is admirable. That is, in brief, what I can say about success.
Yes, Mr. Fagil Mandy, you have been in the past education system, and you have seen this one come. And I'm sure you are one of the people they consulted. What do you think is hard to implement in this new curriculum?
That one needs a longer time, a longer time. No, what I would say very quickly, that this new curriculum for me was a very good achievement, but the implementation, I think, is finding some problems. I think that the teachers need to be trained more to understand even what competence-based is concerned, because they do not have those skills themselves and they have not been trained in the teacher training college. The teachers need to be trained more, and the parents need to know what exactly the new curriculum is about. Are you getting me? Because presently in my assessment as an educationist, a lot of parents do not know what is it, except some are beginning to see, because competence-based is not very clear to the population. Remember, we are very low on community education. So the public is not properly educated, and there has not been a deliberate program to educate the public to understand what they should expect from the school. Are you getting me? All right? Even the real picture of what sort of student to expect from primary and secondary, is not very clear from the parents, because the parents have not been brought together through a deliberate program of mindset change and understanding. So for me, I think that's what needs to be done. Retrain, to continue training the teachers seriously. Are you getting me? Otherwise, half trained, they will continue damaging the program. Are you getting me? Number two, create an inspectorate that works and moves to evaluate what is taking place in the school. Today we hardly have any inspectorate, in my opinion. I don't think we are moving down on the ground and covering and monitoring what is taking place. So for me, that's what I need. And then we work on the traditional questions like school dropout. Let's stop it when it is taking place. Let's stop it quickly. And also, let's keep the students moving and continuing. So good. Let's join the Skilling Uganda program up with what has started in the schools, but by doing the things which I've talked about.
In African proverbs, we say it is always good that sometimes you have got to work until you cannot introduce yourself anymore. Mr. Fagil Mandy, he doesn't need any introduction. Wherever he steps, someone will recognize that this is a perfect educationist. Now, as time is not always our best ally, I want Mr. Fagil Mandy to give your parting shots as you call upon the public to venture into reading your books, because there is a lot of knowledge. People who are not like me, who has a chance to have a face-to-face interview with you. Some people would want to talk to you and they don't have your contact, but they can read your books, and it is one way of talking to you indirectly. You first give them the books you have and where they can find them. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, each of the books which I've written represents my biggest lessons as I've been growing up. So quite often I use examples which I've gone through myself and I have observed. They are lessons in themselves. I have a book on self-engineering, meaning how do you design yourself? How do you build yourself like a mechanic? Because it is your responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to engineer yourself, to put yourself together and be what it is. All right. Number two, I've got another book which is Top Secrets of Educating Your Child, meaning we have a parenting crisis in Uganda, and that book is guiding you, picking from my own experiences and what I've seen in the country. I've moved around this country and I've taught and learned a lot. You get me? Top Secrets of Educating Your Child. We need to close that gap. The population is getting poorer and poorer in terms of knowledge and skills and productivity. All right. Then there is another book which is Learning from Home, the Mother of Schools for Your Child, which means that the biggest school in somebody's life is the home. That's the foundation. And today, the home has been broken. So that book teaches you how to educate your child at home. I'm not talking of homeschooling, but how do you train your child to become somebody? How much did I learn from my mother and my grandmother? You know, that sort of thing. Then there is a book, When You Send Your Child to Secondary Education. How do you know that your child is learning and benefiting from all the programs and really that you can say, my child is growing, is being made, all right? And then there is another book for students at the university called How to Get Ready for the World Out There. I have observed that students go for degrees and diplomas, but they hardly look at the world which is waiting for them. So this book prepares them what to do, how to do, what to do, everything. If you want to read it carefully, you cannot leave a university and go into the world like a foreigner. You know, you go there when you have prepared yourself. And then, of course, there is preparing for retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, you may not know, but for me, I've discovered people fear retirement, and that's one of the weakest problems, the biggest problem we have in the country. People are not prepared that when you retire, you are growing older. Number two, you have to surrender the job which you are working on and face a new world. But people are not prepared for that. And people are scared and they think that retirement means death. No, retirement can mean actually a fresh start with that. And then the book, the Fagil Mandy, the African icon, that one I've used myself as a role model and read what has been published about me in the newspapers, analyzed that information and put it together to say that here it is, Fagil Mandy, at my age of 74, I've drawn you a picture of what I think is an icon. How can you make an icon? Because people don't know how to make themselves high and admirable and perfect. Are you getting me? I had nothing to use except to use my experience, but using my experience as described by the newspapers of this country for over 20 years. Are you getting me? Yes. To say who I am. So I'm not praising myself, but I have put myself there to be a role model. Are you getting me? And I am not telling lies, God knows. And also I know the public, when I say I was headmaster here, they will know, yes, I was headmaster and what sort of thing. So that is one. How do we build the Ugandan? How do we build the African to shape and be a picture of Africa, a mover of Africa? That's the contribution of the books. You can get them from Aristotle. You can get them from Uganda Bookshop. You can get them from Mukono Bookshop. And then, of course, we are going to open a website and we shall be announcing where to get them. But you can also ring us and then we deliver. All right? And please, if anybody you think you are in a position which can propagate these books, you have a bookshop or something, please do ring me and tell me. I think you can give them my number.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Fagil Mandy. We have been talking to an educationist, education consultant, and many titles. Perhaps we need a PDF profile to finish all these titles. Thank you so much, Mr. Fagil Mandy, for allowing you to speak to us and for giving us your motivational story. I think people out there, if you cannot be inspired by Mr. Fagil Mandy, guys, I don't know what can inspire you. So, sincerely speaking, thank you so much for giving us your time. And indeed, your story is an inspirational one. I am Ivan Tukunane, and this is The Ivan Show.